Military control in Myanmar has a long and complicated history. In a coup in 1962, the military came to power. Before democratic elections were held in 2015, the nation was dominated by the military for more than 50 years. As a result, Aung San Suu Kyi and her National League for Democracy party were elected to power. In this video, we'll talk about the most recent changes in Myanmar where China overthrew the military regime. With China's influence escalating in the region, the situation in Myanmar is swiftly changing. We will investigate the consequences of China's involvement and its effects on the future of Myanmar. Before we begin, make sure that you have subscribed to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon to keep yourself updated with our regular uploads. Despite this, the military continue to have enormous power in the nation, with military appointees holding 25% of the seats in parliament. The NLD won a resounding victory in the 2020 elections, and the military complained that there had been electoral fraud. The military carried out a coup on February 1, 2021 and detained Aung San Suu Kyi and other government figures. In Myanmar's politics and economics, China has always been a major factor. Myanmar plays a significant role in China's strategic connections to the Middle East and the Indian Ocean. Myanmar is a significant trading partner for China, and China has made significant investments in the country's infrastructure and energy industry. Due to accusations of Chinese arms being used against demonstrators and Chinese corporations continuing to do business with the military, China has been in charge of aiding the military administration in Myanmar. Additionally, China has obstructed UN efforts to put sanctions on Myanmar's military authorities. A strategic agreement that Myanmar's military government recently linked with China has sparked worries about China's expanding influence in the region. A collaborative military training program and proposals for Chinese infrastructure investment in Myanmar are included in the deal. The future of Myanmar is significantly impacted by China's engagement in its politics. China's backing for the government weakens efforts to restore democracy in the country, because the military government has been accused of violating human rights and repressing democracy. The security of the region may potentially be impacted by China's participation in Myanmar, with China, India, Bangladesh, and Thailand all sharing borders with Myanmar. Regional instability may spread beyond the country. Tensions with other regional powers, such as India, could be exacerbated by China's expanding influence on Myanmar. International censure and appeals for action have been made in response to the situation in Myanmar. While the United Nations has called for a stop to the violence and a return to democracy, the United States and other Western nations have slapped sanctions on Myanmar's military authorities. It's important to note that the ROHINGYA Muslim minority community in Myanmar has been experiencing a humanitarian crisis. Over 700,000 people were displaced as a result of a crackdown on the Rohingya population in Rakhine province carried out by the military of Myanmar in 2017. The military was charged with crimes against humanity such as rape, murder and arson. The international community has widely denounced this catastrophe, and several nations have levied sanctions on Myanmar's military authorities. Many claim that China is backing Myanmar's military regime despite the abuses of human rights being done against the Rohingya people. China has come under fire for its position on the Rohingya situation. Concerns have been made regarding China's priorities in the area and its readiness to put economic interests ahead of concerns for human rights. China's involvement in Myanmar is a component of the larger Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to boost China's economic might and political clout by funding infrastructure and development projects in several nations. Many claim that China is utilizing the BRI to increase its political and economic influence in developing nations, which has raised controversy about the initiative. As part of the BRI, China has made significant investments in Myanmar's energy and infrastructure, with projects like the Kyaukphyu Special Economic Zone and the Meat Zone Dam. These initiatives have drawn criticism for their potential to have a negative impact on the environment and give China undue economic sway in Myanmar. The people of Myanmar have suffered significantly as a result of the political unrest and bloodshed in the nation. Numerous violations of human rights, such as the use of force, arbitrary detentions, and torture, have resulted from the military's crackdown on demonstrators. A serious humanitarian catastrophe has also resulted from the situation, leaving many people displaced and in the need of aid. The people of Myanmar have also been impacted by China's engagement in the economy of the nation. While Chinese investment has helped Myanmar expand its infrastructure, many have criticized the terms of these investments due to issues such as debt, lack of transparency, and environmental effect. There are also worries that Chinese investment may result in the eviction of regional residents and the depletion of natural resources. Many nations have imposed sanctions on Myanmar's military authorities and demanded a restoration to democracy in response to the situation in Myanmar, which has drawn broad international condemnation. Targeted penalties, including as asset freezes and travel bans, have been placed on Myanmar's military commanders by the United States and the European Union. The UN Security Council has called for a stop to the violence and the release of political detainees as part of the organization's involvement in the crisis response. China has been charged with obstructing UN efforts to put sanctions on Myanmar's military leaders, illustrating the difficulties in achieving global collaboration to resolve the issue. Concerns about the stability of the region have been raised by China's growing involvement in Myanmar. An inflow of refugees has entered nearby nations, including Thailand, India, and Bangladesh, as a result of the military coup and the ensuing turmoil. As a result, tensions in the area have risen and pressure has been placed on already stretched resources. China's expanding economic and political sway over Myanmar may have repercussions for how it interacts with other nations in the area, especially those with divergent interests. For instance, India has long-standing close relationships with Myanmar, but its ties to China have soured recently. This relationship may become even more strained as China's influence grows in Myanmar, possibly sparking regional conflict. When it comes to resolving the situation in Myanmar and promoting democracy there, the international community has a critical role to play. Countries must keep enacting specific sanctions against Myanmar's military leaders and support initiatives to hold people accountable for violations of human rights. The international community's power to affect the circumstances in Myanmar is constrained, though, due to its substantial clout as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. China has been charged with obstructing efforts to penalize Myanmar's military authorities. This demonstrates the necessity for more international collaboration and for China to be under pressure to utilize its might to help Myanmar's democracy and human rights. There is a need for conversation and diplomacy to find a peaceful solution to the problem in Myanmar amidst the political unrest and bloodshed. The international community must aid Myanmar's government and civil society leaders in their efforts to promote communication and find a peaceful solution to the issue. China can help foster communication and lead the way to a peaceful resolution of the crisis. China, a significant ally of Myanmar's military administration, might exert pressure for a peaceful conclusion and support for democracy in the nation. In conclusion, China's growing influence in Myanmar is a complicated subject with repercussions for the country's future, the stability of the region, and global relations. The military takeover and the ensuing carnage have made it clear that China's Belt and Road Initiative and its regional ambitions require closer examination. The international community has to support initiatives to advance democracy in Myanmar while continuing to hold the country's military officials accountable for violations of human rights. China has a role to play in assisting these efforts to find a peaceful solution to the problem through dialogue and diplomacy. We must continue to be on guard and work towards a peaceful and democratic future for Myanmar as the situation there develops. I appreciate your attention.